I just can't with these people. It's too early on a Saturday morning to deal with this level of stupidity. And by the way, I saw a lot of your comments on the video I did on Skip Bayless the other day, wanting me to play the video clip of Jenny Taft calling him out for going after Mike McCarthy and his weight. I can't play the clip. YouTube would take my video down or they would copyright strike it. I've tried it in the past before. They will not allow you to play copyrighted material. That's why I didn't play the clip. Anyway, shout out to one of my followers on Twitter for shooting me the video idea for this video last night. Appreciate the heads up because I would not have found this story on my own. There are two things I find unbelievable about this story. One, that Cwik at Yahoo Sports, who is supposedly a journalist, used a thesis from a college student for this story. And two, that Hank Snowden, the college kid, became so indoctrinated at Claremont College that he even came up with this ridiculous idea. I don't want to be too hard on Hank Snowden. He's a kid. Looks to me like he just graduated college. So he has spent the last 4 years of his life being brainwashed. Clearly he bought into it, hasn't developed a mind of his own yet. Hopefully that will come with age as he enters the real world. But Cwik, really, there is no excuse. This is what we call journalism in America in 2021. Cwik has been a writer at Yahoo Sports since 2015, and I use that term writer loosely. This dude is a purveyor of spreading propaganda. Am I bad, by the way? I probably confused half of you. I haven't even told you what I'm talking about. This really pissed me off when it was brought to my attention last night. So, did you guys know that umpires in Major League Baseball are racist? Oh yeah, yep. Add Major League Baseball umpires to the list of people with inherent racism. How do we know this? Was this theory proven over years and years of research by a respected firm? Was this data collected and analyzed by professionals? No and no. The first three words in this article by Cwik were lies. It started right from the top. The hypothesis of baseball umpires was pulled from Hank Snowden in his senior thesis, which Cwik at Yahoo Sports is calling a new study. It is not a new study. It's a damn book report from a college student. I'm sure Hank Snowden received an A from his ultra-woke professor for this report, but this college grad right here is about to shoot holes in his entire thesis. The thesis concludes that umpires made more advantageous calls when their race was the pitcher or the batter receiving the advantage. Now, how often does this happen in Major League Baseball? Over the last 13 or so years, it happened 0.3% of the time. 0.3%. I would call that within a reasonable margin of error. First off, and I have explained this before, the far left will call this inherent racism, but it's just human nature to subconsciously be more willing to help people that look like you or that you relate to. Black people are more likely to help black people. White people more likely to help white people. Latinos more likely to help Latinos. It's not racism. In the jungle, lions roll with other lions. Do you ever see a lion helping out a hyena? No, they probably want to eat each other instead. But I don't even think this has anything to do with this study on baseball umpires. I don't. The margin of error in most research is between 1 and 3%. 0.3% is nothing. That is insignificant. If a minority batter sees around 1,450 pitches per season, that means 4 of those pitches throughout the year would be impacted by this inherent racial bias. 4 pitches over 162 games. Robert Arthur at Baseball Prospectus, he jumped into this new study to give his opinion. He said this is significant for black players because they already struggle in Major League Baseball with discrimination. So this is an additional barrier, and it's a significant problem. Someone please explain to me, how are black players discriminated against in Major League Baseball? How are black athletes discriminated against, period? You can't criticize a black athlete without being called a racist. But in baseball specifically, how are black players discriminated against? Lewis Brinson with the Marlins, he just falsely called a white grandfather a racist for yelling at the Colorado Rockies mascot. Now you flip that story and have Mike Trout make up a false racism claim against a black fan, how do you think that would turn out? Lewis Brinson has all but been forgiven and forgotten. No one in the media called him out for it. Matter of fact, they tried to promote the story as truth, as fact. If a white player had done the same thing, he would have been suspended. Robert Author also pointed out that around 90% of Major League Baseball umpires are white. All right, what's your point? Maybe that's the only candidates that applied for the job. I don't know. But it's not only white umpires who have a racial bias. Latino umpires showed a racial bias towards non-white players as well. Perhaps that proves there is no racial bias, that this is all coincidence. This is another example of someone actively looking for racism where there is none. I was talking to one of my friends yesterday. He's going through some problems right now. He's struggling, hasn't been himself lately. His wife has noticed a change in his behavior, so she decided to go through his phone. By the way, don't ever do that. Bad idea. That is not a good idea. His wife found some texts from a girl that he and I grew up with. We haven't seen her in years. She's married now, has kids, lives in another state. The texts were just him and her going back and forth, catching up with each other. It was harmless. However, his wife didn't think so. Long story short, my friend made the comment, you shouldn't go looking for something that you really don't want to find. Don't jump into muddy water and then complain that you got muddy. It's the same thing with wokers actively looking for racism in everything. If you're trying to find something, you will find a way to convince yourself that it's there. Major League Baseball has been teasing the idea of going with robotic umpires. Supposedly, that will help eliminate the racial bias with human umpires. The idea sounds okay on paper until you remember how to think like a woker. What would happen with robotic umpires? The woke will claim that the robots are racially biased too. These robots were built by white people. They built their inherent racism into the robot, and the robot is now a racist. I mentioned earlier that the average player would only be impacted by about 4 pitches a year by this 0.3% error percentage. Hank Snowden, the college kid, he says that this could have a huge impact on the career of a minority player. According to his research, 5% of Major League Baseball players play in only one game in their career. If there is a 0.3% bias with umpires, it could negatively impact this player's career. That's just simply not true. One bad call is not going to determine whether a career minor league player makes it to the big leagues. Just like one strikeout isn't going to determine if a minor league pitcher makes it, or a home run from a minor league hitter won't determine if he makes it into the big leagues. Now, I didn't have time to read Hank Snowden's full book report. It's about 50 pages long. I skimmed through it for the most part, but like I said, I'm not blaming the kid here. I blame Yahoo for publishing an article like this based off of a college kid's book report. This is what we are calling journalism in 2021. It is simply laziness. Clearly, Yahoo Sports doesn't have an editor, at least in their sports department. And if they do, they need to seriously reevaluate his position. There is no way an article like this should have ever been published. All right, let me know what you think about Yahoo using a college thesis as the primary source for their article on racial bias with Major League Baseball umpires. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.